This is Brian at Atlanta Hot Tub Center. Today I want to do a review. I want to talk about the cold, hard facts of a salt system in the industry today. Now, there's a lot of different manufacturers of these salt systems. There's a long list of them, but let's talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. The first thing I want to touch on is kind of the history of the salt system, right? How it came about. And let's start with it didn't get introduced into the United States until the mid-'80s. The technology was actually out in Europe first in the 1960s, believe it or not. But again, it didn't come over to the United States until the mid-'80s. And basically what it did is it shined some light. It showed us that we can, instead of being 3 to 5 parts per million of chlorine, we could go down to 2 to 3 parts per million of chlorine, average of maybe 2.5, 2 parts per million of chlorine with the salt system. But again, it kind of opened up the eyes, because really, here's the other trick too. You can kind of keep your hot tub, right? I know the health code, right? I know the health department says 3 to 5 parts per million, 3 to 5 parts per million. But really, you can keep your hot tub at 2 to 3 parts per million and get away with it. I've got a lot of customers that do it. They've never had a problem. Again, I can't sit here and suggest that to you because, the health department does say 3 to 5 parts per million. And of course, the marketers at this point, right, they kind of went crazy. They're like, oh, chemical free, automatic hot tub, automatic hot tub. You don't have to add chemicals, right? You're adding salt. It's a chemical free. It does all this, blah, 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 blah. Marketers kind of took off with this whole thing, right? What they didn't tell you is they're actually just taking 2 corrosive salts. They were taking sodium chloride, which would make your chlorine, and sodium bromide, which would make your bromine. Now, I want to dig into these 2 salts specifically. All right, so let's talk about sodium chloride and sodium bromide. First things first, these are 2 highly corrosive salts. And in hot water, they are extremely corrosive, right? It's scientifically proven that salt in hot water is very, very, very corrosive. And the big problem is, in the early days, is that they were just destroying hot tubs. These salt systems were just destroying hot tubs. And then we kind of learned to adapt a little bit. And now we've got shell surfaces that can handle the corrosiveness of salt. But a couple of things I want you to consider and think about if you're looking for a salt system in the industry is you've got salt and hot water together, and if you've got a deck, a concrete slab, you have nice furniture, it is going to discolor or destroy anything in its path. And another thing that we're finding is the components of a hot tub, after being in a saltwater environment for 4 or 5 years of time, it is destroying the components. So people are having to replace their jet pump, their heater, they got gaskets leaking, jets leaking, things like that. And so what I've got next to me is a giant bucket full of salt system parts, right? I got anodes and electrodes and cells, right here. And that these people took these systems out because they didn't want to pay the high price to have a salt system because of repairs and the service. All right, so let's talk about this. Everybody says natural chlorine, soft water, natural chlorine. Guys, talk to a chemist. Chlorine is chlorine. Talk to a doctor. The inhalation of chlorine is a carcinogenic, right? In your lungs, they absorb everything. So hear me out on this. If you have a salt system generator and your salt levels are correct in the hot tub, right? Remember, this isn't cold water. Cold water environment, you got commercial equipment, you've got hard pipe, you have something that is literally designed basically for a salt system, and yet it is still a little bit corrosive in a pool environment. But when you get into hot water, it's a whole nother animal. But follow me here, right? You're sitting in the hot tub and your chlorine generator is generating chlorine. Your sodium bromide, your sodium chloride, these generators, they're generating chlorine and bromine while you're sitting in the hot tub, and you're literally inhaling it, and your lungs are absorbing all these poisonous gases in, right? And here's another thing let's talk about. Let's talk about the boost button on these systems. Every salt system has a boost button, and what the boost button does is if you use the hot tub numerous times, or if you have a dinner party, you can hit that boost button, and what does it do? It makes even more chlorine, even more bromine out of the sodium chloride and the sodium bromide. Right now, if you're you sit in it, in the next 24 hours, you're really breathing it in. It's really absorbing into your lungs, right? Again, guys, it's marketing, 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 marketing. You know, that's what these guys are doing, right? The moment that this stuff came out, they're like, oh, automatic hot tub, all natural, soft water. Guys, this is easy stuff. All they're doing is taking sodium chloride, sodium bromide, and they're just turning it into chlorine. That's it. There's no great thing here. There's no great innovation here going on. Another thing I want to talk about are the prices of the parts, right? The anodes, you guys saw the bucket, but the anodes, the cells, and all this stuff for these salt systems is highly expensive. You have to replace your anoid, cell, or electrode every 2 to 3 years because it corrodes out. That's $500, $1,000, $1,500, sometimes $2,000 to do. It's extremely expensive. Again, when you go into the store, ask these people, say, hey, show me the price list on the salt system. Ask them, say, hey, listen, what's the warranty? And they're going to tell you that the warranty is like 1 or 2 years and that the hot tub has a 5-year warranty. Hello, red flag, right? So again, just look at it and make sure, do some research and make sure that you pick the right system for you and your family. Now here's another thing to touch base on, right? Everybody says that, hey, you've got a salt generator, okay? Now you don't have to add any chlorine, okay? All right, so now you don't have to add that tablespoon of chlorine a week to the hot tub, right? But you still have to test the alkalinity. You still have to test the pH. You still have to test the calcium levels. And now you have another component. So now you have to test. Now you got separate test strips for salt, and you've got to test the parts per million of the salt to make sure that that's in range so that your hot tub can make the chlorine that it needs to keep the water clear and clean and safe for your hot tub to use, right? And then you've got to test again. You got to have chlorine test strips to test the chlorine levels to make sure that they're in range. So again, no big stuff here, folks. They're just taking sodium chloride, sodium bromide, and they're making chlorine and bromine. All right, so I want to wrap all this up. Basically, again, there's nothing special here, folks. Sodium bromide, sodium chloride, these systems, these generators, they're just creating chlorine. They're just creating bromine, right? And again, you know, the marketing industry has grabbed a hold of this, and they've just gone overboard with the whole thing about it creating soft water and it being an automatic system and being good for you and all this stuff. Again, there's systems out there where you have chlorine levels at 1 to 2 parts per million. That's actually less than an actual salt system without all the inhalation of actual chlorine. Again, these systems are making chlorine while you're actually sitting in it, right? Again, I'm not a huge fan of that. And any dealership trying to sell you a salt system, quite frankly, they're not selling it to you because it's some great innovation, right? They're not selling it because it's the best thing for you. They're selling it to you because they're making money off of you. I'm telling you that I'm a Clear fan, but you can look into all the systems. You got to find what's best for you. Again, right? So I'm not sitting here saying, hey, come buy my stuff, but I'm simply telling you to really look into it, to know exactly what it is that you're getting. All right, so I want to talk about one more thing here, salt in a pool. I will tell you again, the way that a pool is set up, it's cold water. And salt in cold water is different than salt in hot water, right? We've already touched base on this, but again, a pool is also all hard pipe. A pool is also all commercial, so that you have a commercial heater, commercial jet pump, all that equipment is commercial, and they're building it to be able to withstand salt. So it's just completely different than a hot water environment, right? Hot water and salt, super corrosive. Let's talk about some other systems in the industry today. Something I endorse, something I really like is the Clear system. Again, do your own research, find something that fits you and your family, but I like the Clear system. We're able, if you're a Clear fan, or if you know about Clear system, we're keeping chlorine levels at 1 to 2 parts per million. Folks, drinking water levels, 3 to 5 parts per million. 1 to 2 parts per million is like nothing. You won't even know that the actual chlorine is in the hot tub, right? So again, do your research, find something that fits you. But again, I endorse the Clear system. Another thing I want to talk about is Silk Balance. I love Silk Balance. If you buy a hot tub here at this company, new, certified pre-owned, doesn't matter. It is going to come with a bottle of Silk Balance, all right? We love Silk Balance. This creates soft, silky, smooth water, good for your skin, hair, and body, but it also has buffers in it, okay? So it has buffers in it to level out pH, right? To help keep the pH stabilized, to help keep the alkalinity stabilized, to help keep the calcium levels in place. It also helps to keep the chlorine in the water, and it does create some soft water in the spa, so it's better for the hot tub. Again, this is better for your hair, your skin, you name it. And I'll tell you, I've had customers come in after they've gone off of Silk Balance, and they've come in and they come back to Silk Balance and say, hey Brian, look, my skin just doesn't feel soft like it did before when I had Silk Balance. So again, another product we endorse. We absolutely love Silk Balance. From all of us here at Atlanta Hot Tub Center, thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, you have any concern, please don't hesitate to give us a call or stop by anytime at our Roswell Alpharetta showroom.